guys, it is MissSimReno. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you are brand new, I am so excited that you decided to join me here today for another mod overview. So this mod is so freaking cool. So it is by KawaiiStacie and it is called the Residential History mod. So I am a Patreon, so I did get early access to this mod. So I think the public release is a little bit later this month. I think like next week or the week after. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for it, but it is so cool. So basically what it does is it allows you to add a background story to your Sims lots. And these can be placed on any lot that you want, including public lots. So I chose to showcase this kind of on a residential lot with my two Sims here, Simuel and Simberly. They're not a family that I play with. I just wanted to make them for the sake of overviewing this mod. So how does this work? So there are a few different lot traits, as you can see. So there's history of, that's basically how they're all prefaced. So there's history of darkness, death, family, happiness, infestation, loneliness, religion, and romance. And they will affect your Sims' relationships, their moods, currency, interactions, and their skills, depending on which one you have on the lot. So they each do different things, and KawaiiStacie did add backstories for each one. So I won't read over each and every single one of them, but I will read at least one or two because they are detailed. So the history of darkness. The previous owner's kid was bullied for being so unique, and he eventually couldn't take it anymore and started studying witchcraft. Maybe this could tie into Realm of Magic, just saying. So he could get revenge. Rumors spread quickly about his new hobby, and they all became afraid of him and apologized. But at this point, he still wanted to make them pay. He invited them over to his house to carry out his revenge, but sadly it backfired, and he disappeared for good. People say if you live here, you will always hear him chanting. So that's kind of the thing. So it's either your Sims are going to hear things to kind of make the lot a little bit creepy, because that's the same with the history of death. So people say that if you live here, you will still hear him, so the person in the story, crying out for help. History for family. If you live here, you will have a happy family. Happiness, you will become infertile. Oh my gosh. It will bring you happiness and success, but you will become infertile. That is so sad. Okay. And infestation, people say if you live here, they will eat you too, i.e. bugs. Loneliness, people say if you live here, you will become miserable and your relationships will end and eventually you will abandon the home too. Wow. That is crazy. Okay. History of religion, people say if you live here, you will be blessed. Short and sweet to the point. And people say if you live here, for history of romance, you will have the romance of your life. So I feel like what I want to kind of look at, so this one is more of like you will hear things, same with this one, and I'm not really turning the volume up too much since I'm doing a voiceover, so I guess we can kind of do, let's try the history of loneliness real quick. I think that'll be the first one that we look at, and we'll kind of see like what interactions there are to see kind of how it does impact these Sims. Alright, so Simberly and Samuel are kind of just hanging out here, and I was looking at the different interactions. So far with the history of loneliness, the only interaction that was available to either of them was confess to being lonely. So they don't have any negative moodlets yet, but that is kind of like what the thought process is behind these. So they may actually get a negative moodlet, and I think their social interaction, like their social need, will actually decline a little bit faster is what I'm thinking with this. But it's eventually going to kind of drive them apart. And I think what's really neat about this mod is that, well, not only is it adding history to the lot, right? Like that's really neat, but it has a direct impact on your Sims. So I feel like over time is kind of how these things work. So it's not necessarily going to be an immediate thing. So, you know, they may confess to being lonely here, but it really hasn't impacted them quite yet. And of course, in the middle of this, Simberly gets a terrible acne, the poor thing. So we'll try to kind of fix that, I suppose, give her a face mask real quick. But I think that that is super cool because one of the things that's kind of missing in The Sims 4, not even kind of, that's really missing in The Sims 4 is the fact that you can create intricate backstories if you'd like. There's, of course, the family trees and everything, which is great for tracking, you know, just generational growth or generational change and gameplay, but there's no like real memory system. There's no way to really kind of make it so your Sims, I don't know, like they carry something with them, right? Or that their environment or even their lot really impacts them too much. Like, of course we have different lot traits, but this really adds to it. The fact that it can kind of add to that story aspect of the game, because that is what we don't have, like, whatsoever. We don't have that story aspect. So this mod seems really cool, and I'm excited to play around with it more. So I did kind of play around with it a tiny bit. Like the romance one, it was almost immediate. It did actually make my Sims super flirty, and they were like rearing to go. Like they were very flirty, and anything could happen at that point. But as for the other ones, like I said, I feel like they're going to kind of work over time, because right now, neither of them have negative moodlets. Their social is actually pretty high at this time, so it might just take some time for it to kind of work itself in. But we'll go ahead and we'll try another one real quick too, to see if that kind of sparks things a little bit faster. All right, so I did add 2 of them actually, because so what is interesting is since they all have different impacts, I was thinking that if you chose one like History of Darkness or Death or Loneliness or something like that, that would evidently impact your Sims in a negative way. I kind of thought that you wouldn't be able to add certain ones together. So like if I got rid of History of Darkness, I could add the History of Happiness or History of Family. So there aren't certain ones, or at least it doesn't seem as though there are certain ones that would actually like conflict with one another, which is kind of how some of the Sims traits, like actual personality traits, would function. So we added a few, and oh, it actually did add one. So the History of Infestation, it looks like Simul here actually has a mood buff here called So Itchy from the location's history. Simul, I keep wanting to say Samuel, Simul keeps getting bit. And it doesn't look like Simberly is actually impacted yet, but that one was pretty immediate. So I'm assuming that if the board buff wasn't so strong and so dominant here, he would actually be super itchy. And oh, she was actually itching herself a little bit too, but she doesn't have the buff yet. So that's actually really interesting. So yeah, so that one was pretty immediate, and I'm assuming that would just make them consistently uncomfortable. And I think the description also said that they would have to shower more often to kind of like keep the bugs at bay. So that's gross, and that one is weird, and I would hate that. So I would not want to live in a home where there are bugs everywhere. Oh, look at them. Yeah, they're just like itching all over the place, even if like Simberly was itching, but she doesn't have the buff. So that's really interesting. All right, so it'll actually change like their interactions, not even just with each other, but kind of like their animations, I guess you could say. So like their actions individually and autonomously is how it's going to impact them. That's actually really neat. Okay. Cool. And I know if the volume was up, we actually might hear like crying and chanting and stuff like that. So that would be kind of neat. I feel like it would probably happen at night. Like when these guys go to bed, there's probably going to be some like crying and chanting and stuff. And that's going to be so creepy. But we'll go ahead and we'll try the History of Religion and the History of Romance just to see if there's a direct impact. So even in her sleep, it looks like Simberly is in the mood. So this is from the location's history, and Simberly is in the mood for love. And yet Simul actually is totally not impacted by that. So that is kind of interesting. Like I would figure that it would impact maybe both of them, but at the same time, this could be intentional, right? Like it could totally be intentional that it pops up completely randomly. So I have no idea kind of like what that algorithm is or kind of what that looks like, but Simberly, I'm assuming if she wakes up here, is going to be super flirty because of that lot trait. So, ooh, yeah, she's really feeling herself there. But, and actually now it's going down significantly, even though it's lasting for 3 hours. So maybe because she just woke up, I don't really know, but because I have Slice of Life by KawaiiStacie as well, she's also blushing from feeling flirty, so that's actually kind of boosting it. And she's also, her flirtiness is being boosted by being acne immune by the skincare treatment. So there are a few things that are boosting that flirtiness, but it is at least a buff that showed up because of the lot trait. So that's really interesting, and Simul still here isn't impacted. So I feel like this mod, the more I play with it, is going to become even more kind of intertwined and immersed with maybe the family that I'm playing. And I thought it was a really, really neat idea because, like I said, we are missing that storytelling portion. We really are. Like, we're missing the storytelling in The Sims 4. It was something that we had, like, it was very, very dominant in The Sims 2 and The Sims 3. Like, those games in regards to, like, family trees and storytelling and, like, the memory system that was introduced and just all of this cool stuff that was there is totally missing. And I'm definitely not trying to rag on The Sims 4. I do absolutely love it. Like, I love this game. Clearly I love it because I play it all the time and I do a lot with it, and it's definitely like a passion of mine. But there are definitely aspects of the like prior installments of this game that I really, really miss. And I love when there are mods like this that try to encapsulate that and bring it back into the game for, you know, its current version, its current installation that we all know and love. So even though we didn't get to see too much of the actual gameplay, I thought it was a really neat mod, and I did want to share it with you guys and show you little tiny snippets of it because I thought it was really neat. So definitely keep your eyes peeled on that if it's something that you do want to download and kind of want to explore. Really just, it expands the lot traits and the lot trait options that you have for the game. So I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.